Hi friends, Krista here. Thank you so much for stopping by Books and Jams. It is time today to talk about my July wrap-up, or should I say the second half of July wrap-up. I did do a mid-month wrap-up at the beginning of July, halfway through the month or so, and I had read 6 books so far, and I have 8.5 more to talk about with you today. But before we jump into the books that I read at the end of July, I would like to thank today's sponsor. Once again, I am being sponsored by the lovely, my favorite book of the month. I love Book of the Month so much. I've been a subscriber for quite a few years. If you are not familiar, Book of the Month is a book subscription service. Each month they offer 5 to 7 new release books that their team has vetted and chosen for you, and then you get to pick which one you would like to add to your box. It's fantastic. They do all the work of finding the new books, finding what's good, what's out there. They have a great variety of genres and of types of books that are out there. And if for some reason you're not interested in the choices that month, then you have the option of skipping, which I think is a fantastic feature. So this month for my choice for Book of the Month, I chose 2 books, and both of them have Asian influence, which I think I'm just in the mood for that lately. So the first one that I have is Bronze Drum by Phong Nguyen. This is a novel of sisters and war, and it takes place in Vietnam. And Vietnam is not a country that I'm super familiar with. When I was much younger, my dad worked with World Relief, helping Vietnamese refugees come to the United States. So I've had a level of interest, but I've never really dove deep into the culture and into their history. So I'm really excited about this historical fiction based on these 2 Vietnamese sisters. My other choice this month is another kind of historical fiction by an author that I've heard of before but haven't yet read. This is Jamie Ford, author of Hotel on the Corner of Bitter and Sweet, which I really do want to read, and his newest book, The Many Daughters of Ah Feng Moi. And in this one, we're following a Chinese family through the generations. So we have kind of a current day story. Dorothy Moi, she's struggling with some mental health issues, starts to see her daughter experiencing symptoms of the same things that affect her. And she starts to look back through the generations and trauma that has been passed down through the generations, all the way back to Ah Feng Moi, who's like the matriarch of this family of women. So I'm looking forward to this one as well. So these are the 2 choices that I selected this month. There are 5 others. This month they have 7 choices for August. Take a look and see if these 2 don't stand out to you. Maybe one of their thrillers or contemporaries will stand out to you this month. You can go ahead and click on the link down below to take a look at the full list of choices. I know there's some repeat authors. There are some other great choices as well. And each month they have an option to add on a book. So in addition to their 5 to 7 main choices, they come up with a handful of add-on choices as well that you have the option of adding on to your box for a low price. I mean, it's such a great deal for new release hardcover books. You can't miss it. You can't miss it. I'm so thrilled and thankful to Book of the Month for sponsoring this video again and allowing me the chance to share with you this great service. But now I'm going to change gears and start talking about the books that I read towards the end of July. I ended up just stacking things in order of height and size. So they've lost all sense of order. We're just going to go from the top to the bottom. First off, I finished reading Keeper of the Lost Cities Legacy. This is book 8 by Shannon Messenger. I have been raving about this series for about a year now. If you are not familiar with them yet, where have you been? Just kidding. I think I've talked about this series quite a bit. I really did like this book. I like the direction that we're going. It's crazy that we're getting near to the end of the series. I think I've heard that it's going to be a 10-book series. Yeah, I'm just really eager for things to start getting wrapped up. They're definitely not getting wrapped up yet. In this one, we continue to follow Sophie and her band of buddies who have some amazing talents and gifts, and really learn that when they work together, they work best. I just still absolutely love this series, and I love reading it with Amy Bowman from Amy's Bookish Life. I did choose a couple books out of my patron pick jar, which is this this vase right here. Every month my patrons recommend some books to me, and I picked out a couple books from that jar to read this month, and I think I ended up only reading one. Whoops. from the few that I picked. But I did read Strange the Dreamer. This was a choice by Lee, one of my Australian friends. This is by Laini Taylor, and Strange the Dreamer is a fantasy. I just really enjoyed following Laszlo Strange, who at the beginning he kind of has grown up in an orphanage with these monks, and then he gets an opportunity to go to a library, and he becomes a librarian working with knowledge, and he becomes obsessed with the lost city called Weep. It's a city of legend and folklore, but he is convinced that there is a lot of truth to it as well. And then things happen and he gets to go on an expedition to find the lost city of Weep. Things go from there. There are these like god humans who have special abilities. Like there's just a lot of really cool, really cool, fantastical elements to this. I just really enjoyed it a lot. I really liked Laszlo. He is kind of the underdog right from the beginning because of his station in life and having grown up as an orphan. And yet his love for knowledge and his kindness and in the way that he deals with other people, I just really liked his character a lot. Yeah, this was a fun read. I think I ended up giving this one 4 stars. It was good. YA fantasy. Not my normal read, but I really enjoyed that one. I read another Catherine Ray book. It's one of my goals this year to read all of the books that I own from her on my shelves. So this makes book 5. I think I just have 2 left or 3 left. This one is a continuation of the Printed Letter Bookshop. The events of this book, even though we follow some different characters, the events of this one take place after the first one. So I do recommend reading Printed Letter Bookshop first and then reading this one, because the events of this one, like I said, they follow the events of the other one, but as far as character development and as far as things happening, it won't make as much sense if you don't get that backstory from the first book. But in this one, we follow the daughter of one of the 3 women that we follow in Printed Letter Bookshop. And the daughter comes back to town for reasons and strikes up a friendship with the guy who bought one of the coffee shops. He came to town because his ex-wife lives there and his little daughter, and he really wants to be a part of her life. Both of these 2 characters realize what a wonderful town this is. And it's a small town where, yeah, everybody knows everybody's business. And yet it's a small town where people look out for each other. They help each other. They go out of their way to just do kind things for each other and to be there for each other. And both of these characters, the coffee shop owner and the daughter, I should use their names, Alyssa and Jeremy. Both Alyssa and Jeremy learn that this is exactly what they need. This found family, this type of a town where people look out for each other and help each other. They have been lacking that in their lives and find so much acceptance and love in this town. And it's just a town that I would love to live in. Honestly, I feel like I need to live in a small town someday, because this is the type of life I want to live, where I know all of the people and there's just a comfort and a support system there that's just built in with the town. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was sweet. Also gave this one 4 stars. I just picked up one afternoon one of the books that were sent to me around my birthday. Caitlin sent me this book. She had read it already and just asked if I wanted it. And it's Linda Sue Park, who is a Newbery medalist. She wrote A Single Shard, which I really enjoyed. She also wrote a book that I've recently hauled, Prairie Lotus. And I just want to read more from her. This is a little teeny tiny. I didn't realize it was going to be kind of a picture book. It's actually a poetry book, which I also didn't realize even while I was reading it. This class, maybe a 5th grade classroom, and the teacher gives them this assignment. If your house caught on fire, what is one thing that you would save? Given that all the people in your family are going to all the people who live in your home are going to get out safely. So don't say people, but what's one thing that you would save from your home? And then we have just this collection of, I wanted to say essays at first, but it's actually poetry. It's a specific kind of poetry, and it goes through each of the different kids in the class and the different things that they would save from their homes. It was beautiful. I really enjoyed this. It was a short, I just read it one afternoon during nap time at work. I just really loved it. I gave this 5 stars. I thought it was fantastic. The fact that it was poetry and I didn't realize it was poetry, it's called shizo, an ancient form of traditional Korean poetry. A classic shizo has 3 lines of 13 to 17 syllables. Sometimes the 3 lines are divided into 6 shorter ones. A few of the poems were written using both the short and the long line. So learning about that type of poetry and just reading it and not realizing that's what I was reading, I don't know. I just thought it was fantastic, and I gave that 5 stars. Thank you, Caitlin, so much for sending me that book. Oh. I have talked quite a bit about these next 3, so I'm not going to spend too much time right now. During one of my weekend vlogs, I grabbed the matzo ball and listened to it on audio. This is by Jean Meltzer. Cute, kind of holiday season romance about a Jewish woman who is an author of Christmas romances. She hides this fact from the rest of her family and all of her friends. She's just enthralled with Christmas, but her publishing house and her agent one day tell her that they don't want any more Christmas romances from her. They want her to write a Jewish romance, a Hanukkah romance to be specific. And she's like, Hanukkah just doesn't have the glitz and glam that Christmas comes with, the magic feeling and all of that. It's a totally different type of holiday. Just because it falls around the same time as Christmas, people expect it to have similar feels, and it just really doesn't. However, an old nemesis of hers from camp when they were 12, nemesis / first love, is coming to town to throw this huge matzo ball, which is a big high-end black tie event on the 8th day of Hanukkah. Obviously, these two their lives are gonna intersect. They're coming back together. They haven't seen each other in a very long time. I gave this 3 stars. I had heard some things from a friend of mine, a Patreon friend who lives in Israel, who gave me some insight why this doesn't sit well with her. I saw a couple of reviews of things that didn't sit well with me either. It was a very cute and fun story. However, I have been somebody who grew up going to summer camp, had little flings when I was young and all of that. I do not buy the story that they had an experience at camp when they were 12 years old that so drastically affected the rest of their lives for the next few decades. Or a couple decades, I guess I should say. I just don't believe it. I didn't believe it. So it's 3 stars. It was a super cute, fun holiday romance, but I just didn't believe it. And so it's only getting 3 stars from me. However, these next 2 are getting 5 stars, 1000% 5 stars. I picked up, based on recommendations of Keisha from A Book Like You first, and then Amanda from The Curly Reader. Both of them highly praised this graphic novel series, duology. I know there are at least 2. It's called Cece's Journal, The Adventures of a Writer in Training by Joris Chamberlain and Aurelie Nayret. And then this one is Lost and Found. In this book, in the first book, there are 2 different stories, and in this one there are 3. They do kind of follow a progression. And so by the 5th story, or the 3rd one in the 2nd book, there's a thread that kind of runs through them that is very prevalent in that last book story in particular. In this one, we follow young Cece. She's 11 or 12 years old. She has a birthday in there somewhere. She's 11. She turns 12. She loves writing. So throughout the story, you do get these journal pages from her. So there's pictures, and sometimes she sticks photographs in the journals and kind of newspaper clippings and things. She puts them in her journal as well. And she loves mysteries. She's always on the hunt for a mystery. In this first one, in a lot of them, she has kind of a fraught relationship with her mom, and you learn at some point, you learn that her dad passed away when she was very young, and she hasn't fully dealt with the grief of that, and it affects her relationship with her mom. She's lied to her mom to hide things. They don't have a very open relationship at the beginning, and that develops throughout the story. I cried, I laughed. It was so endearing. These kids felt like they were 11 years old. I absolutely love these books. I want to own them on my shelves. These are library books. They have to go back to my library. I want to own these and read them over and over. I just fell in love with Cece and her mom and the story. Oh, I love them. I think all of the stories at one point made me tear up. The last one in particular had me crying. Whew, so good. It's so good. If you're at all interested in a graphic novel, read these ones. If you're not interested in a graphic novel, these might be a good place to start. Oh my goodness, they're so good. Have I convinced you yet? Please put them on hold at your library and read them. Oh my word, I just love them so much. And the final book that I've completed in the month of July was The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. What a fun story. What a fun mystery. This takes place mainly at this retirement village called Cooper's Chase, where there is a group of people, 2 women, Elizabeth and Joyce, and 2 men, Ibrahim and Ron, who love to work on cold cases and try to crack cases. These people are incredibly intelligent and witty and fun, and they just have a lovely friendship with each other. Then something happens where the owner of the property is trying to build another section of the property. He wants to tear out this old graveyard that's there. He fires the one guy that's been part of his team to try to hire somebody else. But the guy that he just fires ends up dying just hours after he gets fired. Turns out he was involved in drugs and in a lot of shady stuff. And these 4 people in the Thursday Murder Club, which is what they call themselves, these 4 people are on the case. They are going to try to figure out what happened. They become friends with one of the police women who has come to the Chase to give a talk about security stuff. And they're like, no. We don't want to talk about security. Come to our Thursday Murder Club meeting. We have some real questions for you. So they rope her in and become really good friends with her as well. The characters in this were wonderful. I laughed out loud a couple times. It was very cute. And then there was a couple different mysteries to work on solving throughout the story. I did feel like the beginning took me a little bit to get into, mainly because there were so many characters being introduced both as we were getting to know members of the Thursday Murder Club, we were getting to know the cops that they were going to be involved with. We were getting to know Ian, the owner, and the people in his side of things and who he was talking with. We were getting to know this priest that was concerned about the graveyard getting dug up. Like, all of these people were getting introduced right away at the very beginning. And it was like, well, who is who here? I just was slightly overwhelmed by that. It did pull me in for sure. As soon as that first person died, I was like, whoa, I was not expecting that. Now we're in it. And now it was getting a little bit more exciting. I did like that there was multiple mysteries. I did love how Elizabeth in particular was so incredibly smart and a little bit pushy, gets her own way, manipulates situations to get people to talk. I found it very interesting. I did not officially give this a rating because I have my book club chat about this book with my patrons in about an hour. So I want to reserve my rating until after that chat because there was a few things I wanted to talk about with them that I didn't really love in particular about the ending. But I will say that I have book 2 up on my shelves. You can see that blue book right on the bottom is book 2. And I'm very eager to continue following this group of people as they work on some other mysteries. I really enjoyed reading this. Finally, so glad that I read it. And that wraps up the books that I finished in the month of July. I will just mention, I'm getting close to the end of The Other Bennett Sister by Janice Hadlow, and I'm loving this book so much. I haven't talked about this really at all. This book takes Mary Bennett, who is Elizabeth Bennet from Pride and Prejudice, one of her younger sisters. Mary is kind of in the middle. So we have Jane and Elizabeth, who are super close. Then we have Mary, and then we have Kitty and Lydia, who are really close, the younger kind of flighty ones. Mary is in the middle, and she's the plain Jane of the family. Literally, the others all have beautiful looks, and Mary doesn't. And at the beginning of this, part 1, it really was interesting to see Pride and Prejudice storylines told through the eyes of Mary, because we're getting it from her perspective, and just how awful the mother was to her, straight awful to her. Just her side of things. We don't see her very much in the book Pride and Prejudice, maybe a little bit more in the movie adaptations. We just don't get to see her very much. But in here, she shines. She gets her own story, and we learn, my heart just went out to her. Things veer off from the original work a little bit. Miss Bennet, I don't believe, was quite as awful in the original as she was in this book. She's just horrid. I'm really enjoying this. I have probably a quarter of the way yet to go. So this will officially be on my August wrap up whenever I finish it. But just wanted to mention because I've been working on that for a week or so now. But this is it for my July reading wrap up. It was a fabulous second half of the month, for sure. Lots of new favorites. Cece's journal's new favorite. The One Thing You'd Save was wonderful. Strange the Dreamer was fun. I love My Keeper Time. Thursday Murder, like a lot of really, really great reads towards the end of the month. I'm so thankful for that. It's always fun when the books that I'm reading are bringing me a lot of joy. Once again, thank you so much to Book of the Month for sponsoring this video. I really appreciate you. And I hope that you do go check them out. Check out all the information and the links down in the description below. And that's going to be it for me today. Let's chat down in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts on any of the books that I read in the month of July. What was your favorite book last month? Or anything else that you'd like to talk about? I'm here. Let's chat. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you being here, and I look forward to talking with you in another video very soon. Bye.